Hello everybody. I am sorry for delaying the Dahlia thing, but as probably many of you are experiencing, it's all about the heat wave. And because of the heat wave, I'm trying to avoid doing baking or anything. I did all my cooking before the heat wave started. Hi, Judy. So, obviously I am avoiding baking clay as much as possible, and the problem with the dahlia is that you kind of have to bake it right away because it's a very thin, the petals are very thin, and if you let them stay for longer than several hours, they will actually start drying and cracking. And for people who ask me, but if you make them this thin, will they be resistant? Let me bring you something. To show you. This is my bird of paradise necklace. If you're familiar with the bird of paradise flower, and of course it's not really, I just got the, hi Cindy, hi Anna, hi Ellen, hi Tina Lynn. I didn't make it exactly perfectly like the petals. I just used elements. Okay, so this is the necklace, and it uses, as you can see, the big orange petals, and then the inside, these little things, and then those other bluish petals. But talking about, and this is all Premo, okay, and talking about, you can see these are fairly thin, and they are quite flexible, so they don't break. So it's the same thing with the dahlia. If your clay is conditioned properly, and if it is baked properly, you don't have to worry even if it is very thin, unless you work with Scalpy 3, which I always tell you just throw it to the trash. But this is just plain Premo, and Premo compared to other, to like Fimo and Pardo and Cernit, is not as flexible and as hardy and as everything. So if you can do this with Premo, trust me, if you use any other type of clay to work with, you definitely have no problems. Did I say hi, Sharon? I don't know if I didn't. This is hi, Sharon. If you don't see very well, my video, make sure that you check on that little gear, because all my videos are HD. So if you don't see it very clear, make sure you change the HD from the little gear on the video player. Now let's see what I wanted to show you, and we are going to try and make a bracelet, is how to make actual, because you know, we all know those big Swarovski type crystal beads are quite expensive, and how you can make something like that with resin. So what you're going to need is obviously UV resin, and then if you have Angelina film, that's fine, it's more expensive. If you have dichroic film, that's fine, it's more expensive, but you don't really need those. All you need is just iridescent cellophane. That's all you need, and you can make Swarovski type beads. And yeah, I have in plan to make something else that involves dichroic film, and hopefully I'll be get to that soon. Hi Donna, hi Chris. What I can tell you is that I did manage to pretty much, I'm almost at the end of reorganizing everything, so I'm looking forward starting tomorrow to getting full on making tutorials. But I'm going to have to do them early in the morning because we are still looking forward for high heat. I mean, just to yesterday we were supposed to have 106 with low humidity. We ended up to having 98 degrees. We had high humidity and heat index going up to 120. In some places where I am it was like 117. So let me actually show you what's in my area. So as you can see, it's heat. It's a little bit better, but I'm not sure if it actually is a little bit better, because remember we have high humidity, and because of that the heat index is usually much higher than the temperature where I am. So I'm going to have to do whatever I can, you know, before noon. Hi Joan, I'm glad to see you again. Hi Joanne. Hi. Oh, that's horrible, Anna, but that's kind of like normal for you, isn't it? So let me grab some wax paper, because I'm not aluminum foil too. I don't like to dirty my little tray for the UV lamp, and things can get messy. But anyway, what the heck? Yeah, I had a very unpleasant surprise yesterday. So I had done whatever I had to do in here. And I was in the living room still sorting on something and unpacking some kitty stuff from Amazon. And I hear a very familiar noise coming from the craft room. So I jump and come look. Finnegan was on the table where I have the pasta machines, and he had discovered that if he pushes on the pulse on the Atlas, it makes a noise. So I started closing the door to the craft room, because that can be very dangerous. He can catch his tail or something. And he was very upset at me as to, why did you interrupt me? That was fun. Okay, so if we want to do a bracelet made out of beads, you can find these in the mold section on my Amazon influencer store. Let me get you the link. They are not very expensive, but you need to have these ones that have the faceted things. Hi, I don't know what the name is. I just gonna say Jot's Design. Hi Arlena. So you want molds that have, what in the world is this, that have faceted cabochons, because if you have the round cabochons it will not look as good. So what we need to do is, first of all, you want to measure your wrist, right? So you need to be, and depends on how tight you want your bracelet to be. My advice, and I always measure like this the bracelets that I make by myself. So get your fist and measure it. And actually not your fist, but do your hand as much as you can like this, and measure the thickest part. So that would be here for me. So it is 8 inches. My wrist is 7 inches. So I'm going to go with pretty much 7.5. And why you do that? Because if it is wider than your hand held like this, then you will lose it. But if you do it like this, you should be fine. Hi, Lisa. So you want to go 7.5 inches. Now the next thing you need to do is measure the beads, and it's up to you if you want to make the beads be like this or if you want them to be like this, because depending on how you decide to do them, that's how you're going to create your bracelet. So let's say that I want to actually combine this and this, and I want to make them like this here. So I'm going, I know it requires some math. So this one is pretty much 3/4 of an inch. This one is 1/4 1/4 of an inch. I do not advise this one. You can poke a hole in, but I would not advise to try and poke a hole in this one, because it's much harder to do that. Another thing that you can do, again, you can make, let's say, the hearts or the teardrop, depending, this one or this one. I mean, you can use this one for the beads, or you can do the hearts and the teardrops as almost like as charms on the chain. Honestly, I would recommend this one more because they are not as deep. These ones are better if you place them on something, because they are very, very deep, because what we are going to do is going to be putting 2 of these together. So if you use this kind, let me actually check on my molds to tell you exactly which of them, because I know I added these. And they are more than just these. Actually, I think that this one was from PolyClay. This one is pink in the influencer store. Let me check if this one is PolyClay. Mold. Let me check. Oops. Sorry. Come on, Sean. Not M. Don't use the, I mean, if you are ready to sand, then go ahead and use the best flexible molds. But without sanding, the best flexible molds are not very shiny. So either sand, or you go back and you do, let me check in my orders, or you do, you know, like a UV gel or Tiny Pandora's Ultra Shine. That's how it's called. I think that's how it's called. Let me make sure that it wasn't on Amazon. It was on Amazon. Why isn't it in my... Oh, because it's Fun Showcase. And it takes forever to arrive because it's from... I'm gonna put it... It's gonna be the first one in the molds. But I removed it because it was the first... I mean, it's not a prime. This one is a prime, but this one is not a prime. So it takes... It's got like $12.99 shipping. So if you find another one like this one, just go ahead and do it. You'll see that there's another one with let me actually switch to the display. There's another one with faceted, that's all with tears, this one, and it's on prime, but this one is not on prime. I have no idea why they have it not on prime. And I've had it for a while. I guess it was on prime. As you can see, this other one is prime, but it's much deeper. And then they have and this is a Wilton. Whatever you have with... See, that's a candy mold. Whatever you have with faceted. So you can use whatever you have faceted, and it is... Your best bet is if it is not too deep. That's your main thing. Okay, so I'm going to do both of them because these ones you can make them in whatchamacallit, earrings, or you can do pendants or whatever. And I'll show you how to do a pendant on polymer clay. Even if I'm not going to bake, I think I have one or two things here, maybe. I might not. Anyway, so let's go ahead and use this. Let me get my eyes. Hi, Gayleen. I am so much better, thank you. Even if I woke up a little bit zombified. I don't know if you follow me on Facebook. You know, I posted because we had this huge tropical storm system as big as the whole state of Oklahoma that went from Kansas and moved south. But it was so bad that I think I told you about Aaron Tuttle. He used to be the meteorologist for one of the local Oklahoma news channels, and now he's one of the weather people for the FAA. But he has his own channel and his own app that is the best app for severe weather ever. And normally whenever we are supposed to have tornadoes, that's when he jumps and goes and does a live both on YouTube and Facebook. But this time he jumped on live because even if there was no actual tornado, he said that he got, at least that's what I understood, I didn't re-watch it, that he got some readings of winds of like 160 miles per hour. Anyway, where I lived, the winds were over, I mean, they were like up to 780 miles per hour with gusts. So, and we had a lot of cloud to ground lightning. I mean, it was so loud and so bad. I was lucky that because in my little neighborhood, everybody except my street and the next one lost power. I didn't. That was a good thing. But the storm started moving in right before midnight, and it moved out after 1:30. So I woke up like a zombie. And yeah, it was not nice. What the heck? I thought that I had a... Well, yes, it does. That's what I was like. I thought that I had a little dropper for this one. So I'm going to do as I said, 7 inches. These together are 1 inch. I'm going to allow another half an inch for findings. So that would make 6 inches if I do 4 of each of these, and that would allow me the clasp. So I'm going to make 4 of these, and then I'm going to make another one of these just to show you the earrings and how to do the Faux Swarovski on clay, because remember that the Tiao UV resin does fine with baking. So you can bake it after you make it. You can bake it because the iridescent cellophane will be just fine. I think that it's in tools. It comes with 2 rulers. It's a kit. It's on my Amazon influencer store. Should be in tools. That's one ruler that's like 15 inches or something like that, and this one that is 6 inches. And I liked it because I was looking for a metal ruler that had the markings engraved, not just painted, because you know how the paint goes away when you're dealing with a lot of polymer clay. Hold on, let me grab a little. What in the world? There we go. To make sure that my resin went all the way. And if you look in the resin thing, I did add some more things, and we are going to do a new thing with soft resin. I'll have to see if it's enough time, maybe tomorrow morning, to do a soft resin one. Yes, this one you can bake it. It doesn't discolor, and I made many tutorials with it. So let's get. See, this one looks like, oh, it's got a something on it. So I'm going to do this teardrop also. But then the other thing that I want to try, I did not try before. I've done this kind of stuff. It is true that I didn't do it with UV resin because at the time that I was working with it, UV resin was not that big of a thing. So I was doing this with casting resin. So I'm going to try and see how it works with UV resin, because I was wondering about creating a water effect type of iridescent bead kind of thing. Make sure that it went all the way. I guess it needs a little bit more, because you want to make it pretty flush so you don't have those raised ridges on the sides. Okay, this should be it. I don't know why this resin seems to be a little bit thicker. I know I didn't leave it open. And I do have quite a bit of bubbles here, so let's take off those. Hi, Christy. So I have these I got from a Family Dollar, but again, if you look on the resin board, let me show you. You will see that I have a few torches that, let me switch to display again. So on the resin area, you see that I'm showing exactly how they are organized. So you'll have the epoxy resin, the polyester resin, and it's the epoxy resin hard and soft, then polyester resin, then UV resin hard, then UV resin soft, then pigments for resin. And be very careful because I have here pigments both for casting resin and for UV resin. For UV resin, use only the ones, if you don't realize what's going on, just use only the ones that come in dark bottles, because they are a colored UV resin and they are not very strongly colored. But see, like these ones are for casting resin. You see that the bottles are normally colored, but these ones are for UV resin. And actually this one is just colored UV resin. And then there are all kinds of tools. And as I said, there's also a little levels, so you can make sure if you do casting resin. Where's my, and here are the torches. There are two little torches for removing the bubbles. But I have these, I got them from my local Family Dollar, so you can get that too. Hi, Chris. It's so hot. Anna was just saying that it's like 117 there. So make sure that you make all the any possible bubbles pop. And I think there's still one here. Yeah, there's still like two here. Okay, and now we can go ahead and get it in the now, as I was saying, to do a water effect. And this is just for fun, okay? I have this, and you can find a whole bunch of round cabochons for resin. Just remember, they have to be shiny here, otherwise you'll have to apply some UV gel or something like that. So let me grab, I need a and a UV resin pigment. Okay, so first I'm going to place a little bit of UV resin here. It's going to be kind of backwards. Normally you kind of do this when you cover something up, not from the inside out, but I'm sure it's gonna work perfectly from the inside out as well. Then I'm going to mix a little bit of blue UV resin pigment. Make sure that this gets properly. And I'm going to mix it a little bit. And then I'm going to zoom this camera so you can see better what I'm doing, at least for this. Okay. So just mix it in here as much as you can. Then what I'm going to do, and let me show you because I forgot to take them out to show them to you. Trish with PolyClay Play. Hi Elaine. Has these adorable tiny spoons for measuring powders. So this is an interference blue. It's a Perlex, but you can find it in many other, you can find the Ghost Effects, the Blue Diamond, you can find them in other mica brands. So I'm going to grab a little bit of interference blue. Not a lot. You don't want it to be too much and mess up your transparency, because if it's not transparent enough, it's not going to cure, right? Yeah, I have no idea why my resin, my UV resin all of a sudden became so viscous. So you only want to mix the top. You don't want the whole, to get it all the way in the bottom. You just want to mix the interference blue on the top. Is this doesn't look focused enough. Let me try and refocus this a little bit. There we go. Much better. And now what I'm going to do, and I'm not sure if it's going to work because this has to be fairly liquid. By the way, another thing, I don't know if I ever told you, because I told you that there's hard resin and there's soft resin, but when it comes to the hard resin, there's also another difference. You have the thin UV resin, and then you also have the thicker, the more viscous one. And usually this kind of effect cannot be obtained very well with the very viscous one. You kind of need the thin one. Let me grab another bottle. It's just another brand, just to make sure that, because I don't know why this is so thick. Mind. tell me that this one is even thicker. Maybe it does have a... I never opened this. Oh yeah, that's why. Duh. And you want to use the toothpick, because if you try to use directly the bottle, it might be a little bit too much. That's why I usually use the toothpick. But normally, dropping clear resin, it might be that the bottom, the whole of it is too viscous to create the effect. Might have to make it with another resin. When you drop clear resin in this mix, it should spread and create just a bubble, but I guess that my base resin is not thin enough. Okay, let's use another resin. I'm gonna still cure this one. And before anything else, make sure when you have the non-transparent, you'll have to take them out and then turn them around and get them on the other side as well. Oops. Of course I had to drop it. God. You have no idea how much I hate this shit sometimes. I'm sorry. The whole dropping thing. Okay, let me fill again this. So the same ones. No idea why it's so thick. It's like the bottle isn't black anymore, so it allowed it to cure. And this is a brand new bottle. I just opened it. Ridiculous. I've had it for a while, but I usually keep it in a cabinet in the darkness. I only take it out when I work with it. No, because he doesn't reach it. It's not on a shelf that he would be able to reach. That's not Finnegan. Something in have another one here that I'm going to use with the other resin. So let's do the same thing as I did with that one. Yeah, the problem is that you cannot obtain it if you don't have a thin enough resin. If it's too viscous, it's not going to work. So a little bit of blue. You don't want it too blue because you're gonna get a lot of blue from the interference one. So this blue, you go all the way through it. And it is transparent enough so that it will. And I do have other cabochons with transparent silicone. I don't know why I didn't get up to get one of those. But anyway, so a little bit of iridescent interference, and again, you don't want too much. You just want it to be on the surface only, because if you put too much, it will not cure, obviously. So you only spread it on the surface. And again, it works really good when you're trying to do surface Caribbean water effect, but it works fine when you do it from the inside out as well. So again, I'm going to pick the thin resin. And see how now it separates. It creates a transparent bubble. In the middle of the coloring. Let me get a little bit more of this. But you'll see the best when it's fully cured. And make sure that you do enough of these bubbles, these pure transparent bubbles, because it's going to make a three-dimensional effect. Because every time you drop one of these clear resin droplets, it's going to push the colored resin and it's going to transport it in other areas. Okay, let's remove the bubbles on this one too. Still one more. Okay. And you'll see there's going to be a huge difference between the viscous one and the thin one. Okay, so before you do anything else, you will have to file a little bit all these edges to make sure that the two ends get together perfectly. You might still have, depending on how your resin is, if it is too viscous, you might get not very shiny effect, but you can always paint it, give it a layer of deep shine or UV gel, nail gel. See, this one didn't go all the way, but we'll still be able to show it. Let me grab my as I've been doing things. Yeah, that's to get more foam. But if you just want the water effect, you don't use white. But that one you can only do with casting resin. You cannot do white. Is the most opaque of all colors. So you cannot really do something like that with UV resin because it's not going to cure. But the surface, it's similar. This is a similar effect. It's on one of the sponsors only, and it is done with UV resin, but you can see it's got a lot of depth. Anyway, so again, if you have raised edges here, you will need to file them down because otherwise your two cabochons will not stay together. Alrighty, this one is a little bit too bombed like this. Anyway, you'll still get the idea. Hello. Okay. Yeah, this one is not going right. Anyway, as I said, it's one of those things that right now because I've been working all day, right now I might be able to just show you how it's done, but not be able to do it myself very well. Okay, let's get these in on the other side so that they can get properly cured. Now let's look at the difference between viscous and thin. It is pretty, but it's just a matter of mixing the powder, while this one is more water-like. Let me get again the, and I'll have to put them back in to get properly hardened on this side. But before I do that, Let me focus it properly. Okay, so this one is pretty just because of mixing the different layers. It's still quite neat. I'm avoiding to touch the top. Bye bye. And then the actual water effect, again, it needs to be practically well hardened on the top. That's the difference between working with regular silicone stuff versus the colored molds. But it's still, nevertheless, it will still make a beautiful effect, pendant or earrings or whatever you want to do with them. And I'll show you some more effects like this in the tutorials I'm ready to do now. Now for this, let me grab, again, I'm going to grab this one, and again file away the raised ridges. And you can make that effect with any other interference. Just don't use a regular mica powder. You want an interference. And to give you a nice tip, if you use interference red and interference gold, or just do the first layer, fill it to like half, do the layer on top with one of the interference colors, then cure it, then do another layer, this time with another interference powder, but that would be connected, like red and gold, or blue and purple, or red and violet, or blue and green, or gold and green, something like that. You will get, don't mix them all at the same time because you're gonna lose some of the effect, but if you get them layered, it will look fabulous. And then on the back you can either apply a thin sheet of polymer clay and bake it, or you can simply use some black UV gel, the nail polish black, but not regular, not the one with acetone, the UV gel, black UV gel. Okay, so the next thing, let me first, where's my, I'm going to get a little piece of the iridescent cellophane, and I'm applying a little bit of the resin, and again, it has to be fairly thin, don't work viscous. I'm going to place this here, just make sure it's well stuck there. Then get the second cabochon, apply UV resin on it, and don't worry, it will cure because that iridescent cellophane is transparent, so it will cure just fine. And then place it on the other side. Your main issue is to make sure that they are well you can first place the, if it's hard for you to get them properly aligned, you can first place the cellophane, cure, and then place the second. I usually just get them in the back in the mold because I can see perfectly what I'm doing, and it's going to look fully Swarovski like. Now, can you do this with these ones? Absolutely, and it will look beautiful. Where's my other one? Okay, but again, you'll have to file down the ends, and this will not fit perfectly on each other because issues. Because I used this one, and I can tell you that this is one of the most horrible cabochon molds I ever gotten. It's from somebody on Etsy. Yes, layered between resin. So your main thing is to get, and you can, you know, apply a little bit more resin if you don't want to spend too much time filing. Let's get another piece of, where's my, but you'll see the effect here in a minute. So place some resin on this one. On the bigger one, I would definitely suggest that you first place the resin and the cellophane on one of them, cure it, and then place the second one. Don't try to do it all at once, because it's not gonna go very well. It's going to slide and slip, and it's not going to go as good. So once you apply the cellophane, make sure it's not wrinkled, make sure you didn't get any air bubbles trapped. Now see what I was saying, if you don't fully file, this might happen. But you can already see how it's going to look. And you can get beautiful opal-like effects with it. And the same with this. Sorry, I got some UV resin on my hands, on my fingers, and piece of advice: you don't want to have any kind of UV resin and then get out in the sun. Okay, so if you think it's not hardened enough, you can of course turn it on the other side and get it again in the but you'll need, I don't have here a small scissors, I don't know, but then all you have to do is to cut this. Let me try this with this. You need one of those cuticle scissors that I have no idea what I did with. But anyway, this is the idea of the whole effect. And you can go in and file a little bit more and even put a little bit of UV gel. Hi Natalia. On the sides to make it look better. You also can fill the thing less than full. Yeah, I really need the little scissors for this, but you get the whole principle of it. And this is how you get opaline effects and labradorite like effects on just using, let me get it closer. But that's why I told you you need a faceted, because when it's, you'll see on this one, it doesn't look as good as with this. You can also allow the little rims, then cover, fill a little bit with resin and do crinkle your iridescent cellophane. But this is essentially your idea of doing this. Now if you want to place it on a piece of polymer clay, first of course you need to trim this. First push the cabochon a little in the clay to give it a print of the size. Then bake the base polymer clay, and then all you have to do is to place again a little bit of resin, because the UV resin acts as a glue, and then press this on the polymer clay, and it is going to look just beautiful. And if you're wondering how it looks on black, this is how it looks on black. It's going to be very, very fire opalish, as you can see, and you get all those beautiful flashes, opal flashes. Just trying to get this more better focused. So essentially this is how it's the whole thing. And with the if you place the other one on the back, it's going to look like this from both sides. And of course you repeat the whole process. If you have the little iridescent powder in, it's going to help create more flash color, because it's going to refract in the interference powder. But if you just look for Swarovski type and opal type, this is pretty much how you create the bead. And again, you have to nicely trim this around, and you can place just some deep shine or UV gel on the sides, and you will have, you can imagine if you do that on a tier, you can use this as earrings without a problem, or the same thing. So once you create these, I'm going to show next time how to put the bracelet together, or maybe I'll just do a tutorial full about this whole process. But as you can see, you create the whole opaline, and of course I messed up my cellophane, the whole opaline effect like this. So I don't know, I think that I'd better just create a tutorial separately on how to put together the whole beads, and I'll just make the beads without being on a live, because it's a pretty long process to get it right. And then I'll show you in the tutorial, I'll show you a few more effects on creating beads with flash opal flash and labradorite flash, because you can obtain a labradorite effect as well with this. And plain iridescent cellophane will always have only these colors. You can of course use Angelina film, as I said, but it's a bit more expensive, but you'll get different effects, and I can show you with the beads already. No, this is dichroic film. It's quite expensive, but you can do pretty nice effects with it, and I'll show you with Angelina film. It's not exactly the same thing, dichroic and Angelina. Angelina changes color when baked, when heated. So depending on the color that you put on the back of your bead, you will get different effects. Exactly, that's all that matters, is the color that you have on the back of your bead. So I have here some yellow, greens. It just changes very much the whole flash color. And if you want to make it even more iridescent, if you're using Angelina film, heat it up a little bit and it will become more iridescent. But as I said, this is dichroic film, it's not Angelina film. And you get all kinds of colors. But for the just for the plain thing, all you need is iridescent cellophane, and you'll be able to get this opaline effect without a problem. You don't really need anything else. You don't need to spend, because both Angelina film and the dichroic film, they can be a bit on the spendy side. So I'll get these in after I finish this. So if everything goes well, next Sunday we'll do the dahlia, and hopefully everything works well. Right? But I cannot know in advance, because if it's still super hot, I mean, I could do the live at 8:30 a.m., but that would mean 7:30 for people on the East Coast, because if I do it at 8:30, then I can bake before the heat comes in, so I don't have to mess up too much. But again, this is how you can get all these beautiful effects just using interference powder, optional, and just resin and iridescent cellophane, and you get all these beauties. And I'll show you, as I said, in a separate tutorial. Yes, I will show you more stuff like that that can be done absolutely beautiful, and will also work with the soft resin, because I just made some experiments, and what you do with the hard resin, you can get 10 times the effects with soft resin, right? So this is how it would look on black. Remember, you can always do these, and you can always do wire wrapping. Hopefully, maybe one of these days my hands will allow me to show you some wire wrapping, because I didn't do in a long time any wire wrapping, because I have issues with my hands, and especially with the pinching motion. So I'm going to continue today with the little bit that I still have on getting my craft room and the crafting area, because I have in the kitchen, I have the sanding and buffing area. And once I get those done, I'm going to launch myself fully back into making tutorials. And today is the last day of Mercury retrograde. So, hopefully nothing will happen, and we'll get out of Mercury retrograde, and I'll be able to do stuff properly. Okay. So I shall see you all next Sunday. Again, I do not know when. We'll have to wait and see, because as I showed you, the forecasts are not very kind to us, but we'll have to see. Take care of yourselves. Don't get heat exhaustion, because I know half of the United States is under extreme heat warnings and advisories. So hold your fingers crossed for me that I don't have any happenings by the end of the day, so Mercury retrograde doesn't mess me up. And soon I'll be able to do lives both on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. You might see a notification or two of me coming on live, but that's going to be testing. Okay. You won't see any simultaneous live until Sunday. So I shall see you all Sunday. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to thumb up. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, and subscribe here and click the bell for notifications. Thank you so much. I shall see you all next Sunday. Maybe earlier than that. Okay. Have a wonderful Sunday.